James Yeager of Tactical Response is a typical white man. And I'm going to tell you why. So, before I tell you why, for those of you who don't know who James Yeager is, James Yeager of Tactical Response is one of the, I'd argue, founding father YouTube channels when it comes to the gun community. You know, it's James Yeager, Suge, Nothing Fancy, Warrior Poet came a little bit later. You know, he just did an interview with him, and I was watching the interview. Um, and a bunch of other people that I'm not going to get into. Lots of other people. Mr. Guns and Gear, and all that, Mr. Clean. Um, and as a young black man, these were the white guys that I got a lot of information on when it comes to the Second Amendment. The irony of that, right? Especially with all the racial tensions that took place back in, what was that, 2020, right? With George Floyd and Black Lives Matter and all that. And I remember James Yeager, he did a video screaming in his car, calling Black Lives Matter a terrorist organization. All right. And I'm going to get to that in a second. But to me, James Yeager is a typical white man. Typical. And I know that the more woke, the more African-centered black people are going to tell me, I don't know why you're surprised. No, it's not a matter of me being surprised. We're going to walk together through this white male pathology that it's so blatantly obvious, but yet it's like nobody really sees it or nobody details it or defines it. This white supremacy wrapped in patriotism. Now, I'm not going to sit up in here and say that, I think James Yeager is a frothing at the mouth white supremacist. I don't think that. Do I think he has typical white male white supremacist tendencies or white supremacist biases? Abso-freaking-lutely. I know some people are going to say, oh, well, there was rumors going around his granddaughter was mixed or something like that, or that he has an adopted mixed daughter, something like that. But that's the choice of whether it's his daughter or son, whoever is in one of his children that decided to hop the fence or whatever it may be. But that doesn't change, who he is and what he reflects as a person. So, like I said, most brothers, they know, you know, they know who James Yeager is. He got famous off of the pack your bags. When Barack Obama was up there talking about gun control, he said, he made this video called Pack Your Bags. And then at the end of the video, he said that, he was going to start killing people if they took one more step. Right. But I couldn't help to feel that, that type of energy, the real issue, the triggering part wasn't the gun control. It's the fact that here you got this biracial man that white society passes off as a black man, Barack Obama, the president of the United States, that is telling white men about what they can and cannot have. Right? Again, it's always a different energy when it comes from a black person. There's this whole who is this nigga to tell us what to do? There's always that exists. It's not a secret. There's always that though. And that's what I felt, with James Yeager when he made the Pack Your Bags video, because Obama was president. I'm like, really, you gonna take it to that length? And then I felt that way when he did his video about Black Lives Matter as a terrorist organization. I'm not even a big fan of Black Lives Matter and, what we really know what it is LGBT masquerading, using black men's bodies as currency, right? They're masquerading as this for black people, and it's really some LGBT shit that's just, using black men's deaths. We've talked about that. But white people, they get so triggered by Black Lives Matter. They get triggered. It's a terrorist organization. They're so quick to call Black Lives Matter a terrorist organization, but they're not quick to call the Ku Klux Klan a terrorist organization. You know, there's so much white guilt out here, it's insane. Now, if y'all don't know, for those of you, James Yeager he's pretty much diagnosed with ALS. I actually had a white friend of mine years ago whose father died of ALS, and I was there to the end. You know, he was if you all don't remember, he was the white dad that used to, oh man, I'd walk in the house and he would be, oh, I was an articulate black man. I stimulated his brain. Oh, he wanted to pick my brain, and we'd sit there and talk about race and politics and what do you think of us or what do you think of that? You know, he would sit there and pick my brain. We used to just go back and forth about it. I was like, oh, I would go, go to hang out, and he would be like, oh, my dad's looking for you. It's like, oh, here we go, because he wanted to pick my brain. Well, he got diagnosed with ALS, and within about a year and a half, he was gone. And I was at the funeral as well. So I know about ALS, and it's not something that I would wish on anybody. I wouldn't wish it on James Yeager. I do find some level of irony, though, with this. It's genetic. James, probably knew this. His father had it. His uncle died. His father died from it. His uncle had it. Yeah, it gets passed down. So, he kind of knew this, that this was a possibility. Even, my friend, the white guy, whose father died of ALS. He has a very high, he's got at least, I don't know, probably a 50% chance of getting ALS and dying from ALS. But, it's like there's an irony to it, with all the shit talking that James Yeager has done over the years, and he's pissed people off. The Warrior Poet brought that up with the, talking about stuff with guns, but nah, it's not just that. And James Yeager's gone off. He's done videos with Coleon Noir, and they've gone back and forth. But there's always been this typical white man aspect of James Yeager that just never sat well with me. And to me, it's not even this video is not even really about James Yeager, but it's about white male pathology. So now he's going over to Ukraine to basically he wants to die a warrior. I mean, let's just call it what it is. He wants to die a warrior. He doesn't want to die of ALS, and I don't blame him. He's been essentially a warrior his entire life, teaching people how to be warriors his entire life, and he wants to die a warrior. But there's parallels between him wanting to die a warrior and what we see with all these other white supremacists out here that go to the Viking shit. See, what white men want to do today is they want to put hypermasculinity on white maleness. See, the black community already has hypermasculinity because that's basically the lane that was created for us, or the space or the box that we've been, allowed to operate in, which is basically a double-edged sword, right? Right? Your community is going to be broken with a whole bunch of hypermasculinity and no other form of my hypermasculinity, but you're desirable and you're sex gods and shit like that. And that's what white men miss. That's what white men want. This is the whole problem with what Western society has done. And it's like Western society is so bad. Not only do black men want to go back to ancient times or something else, and I get it with black men because, this system is not our system and it doesn't benefit us, so we're like, tear it down or go to a different time, where, we can be men, right? But the irony is white men, here they are in their own system, where they control the banks and the politics and the educational system and everything. But your average white man, right? Because they don't want to focus on classism and they don't want to focus on what the white elites are doing. They want to break everything down into this us versus them type of thing and along racial lines. And then, these stereotypes and these tropes that the elites in the system of white supremacy have created. These poor working class whites, they eat that shit up. Stokely Carmichael talked about this with his, Communist Auto Workers Party, and talking about how they don't focus on the fat cats, who haven't, whose fingernails aren't even dirty, but yet they focus on the niggas. It's the black people. And James Yeager, again, typical white man. Oh, Black Lives Matter terrorist organization. Oh, he's foaming at the mouth. You know what the irony is about him wanting to go to freaking Ukraine, in my opinion? Russia is to Ukraine what white supremacy is to African Americans. I mean, let's look at Russia. What has Russia done to Ukraine? Russia, when Ukraine was underneath Russian control, right, when it was a part of the Soviet Union, Russians came through and suppressed the Ukrainian language and the Ukrainian culture and the Ukrainian way of life. That's what Russia did. Russia imposed its will on the Ukrainian people. So much so that there's many aspects of Ukrainian society today that are indistinguishable. But is that not what the system of white supremacy in America has done to black people? Imposed its culture onto black people, imposed its beauty standards onto black people, to the point where, black people, especially when it comes to black women, have issues with, beauty standards and things like that. Because if you don't look like a beautiful white woman with your hair blowing in the wind and fair skin and blue eyes or green eyes or whatever, and a pointy nose, you're not beautiful. So you tell me what the difference is between what African Americans have been going through in this country versus what the Ukrainians are going through, in the face of Russia. You tell me what the difference. Black people went off and established communities, and the system of white American supremacy came in and burned them out. Whether it was Tulsa, Oklahoma, Rosewood, Florida, Elaine, Arkansas, Wilmington, North Carolina, burn us out. Ocoee, Florida, burn us out. They did the same thing. They bombed Tulsa, Oklahoma, same thing that the Russians are doing to the Ukrainians. But yet James Yeager and so many other white male Americans who want to be Vikings and they want to die in battle and then enter the gates of Valhalla, they're willing to fight and identify, which is no surprise. But it's the lack of intellectual integrity that gets me. Forget the race. I'm saying they're like, those poor Ukrainians having the Russians impose their will on them. We must do something. And then again, in the process, gain hypermasculinity, white male hypermasculinity, and in the process, be recognized and die for the cause of our fellow freedom fighters, right? But when it comes to African Americans, Black Lives Matter, right? See, when black people, when we get sick and tired of being sick and tired, when we don't want to have other people just constantly disrespect us and impose their will on us, and then we fight back, all of us, then it turns into, these niggas, we gotta throw them in jail, and see the black people, and see, that's why we should have left them in chains and send them back to Africa, and they're just fucked up. There's no justifiable reason for African Americans to be so upset that they go out there in the streets and tear shit up. There's just not justifiable, right? Like as though black people brought this on ourselves when we didn't even come to this nation by choice. But yet, white people, white Americans, they can't see that. James Yeager, he can't see that. But with the Ukrainians, 2020 clarity. He can see, the Ukrainians, those damn Russians are trying to impose their culture on Ukrainian identity. But white America, as it's always done, imposing its way of life onto black people, being the standard. Nobody sees that. White men don't see that. Don't get it twisted. I don't really expect them to look at it that way, based on, again, them just being, regular white people running around. But I am going to expose the lack of intellectual integrity, and this is the pathology of whiteness. This is why white supremacy is the greatest religion that the world has ever known. Because many of them don't even know. It's like I don't. It's like baked into their existence. I mean, I'm like, how do you not see the hypocrisy? You see black people out there marching, protesting, all that shit. You know, and you just, I mean, even just can't even bring themselves to identifying with it, right? And I know that there's some smog that makes things look unclear. Oh, these black guys, they've adopted gangster culture and everything. They adopted the culture that would come out of any situation where you deprive a group of people of resources. That's what you're gonna get. When you have people that are marginalized and excluded from society, what do? They typically fall into, criminal activity and whatnot because they still got to eat, they still got to survive, right? And if they're denied access to the same economic opportunities that white people can gain, then what are they to do? Let them eat cake. Right? It's the same thing that the Italians did when they first came over here. Marginalized. Sacco and Vanzetti, marginalized. And what did they do? They formed organized crime, which ironically, black people adopted and basically, plagiarized and copied. A lot of the stuff, a lot of the hip hop and the gangster rap that you see now, Biggie Smalls, all that stuff, it was all themed after what? The freaking Italians. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Nas's first album, the song "The Message," right? Got the damn Godfather theme in the background with the viola. Italian organized crime, immigrant population that was put down. It was funny because Italians were always put down up until the Germans discovered during World War II, discovered the greatness of Rome. Oh no, we must now incorporate white people. I mean, excuse me, Italians into, under the umbrella of whiteness because, I mean, just look at all these megalithic structures like the Parthenon, in Greece or Rome or whatever, like, and the Colosseum and all that stuff. Oh, we must recognize them now because clearly we cannot assign this to any other group. In order to reinforce the system and the ideas of white supremacy, we must make them white, which is the same thing that they do with the Egyptians, despite Herodotus calling it ancient Kemet, the land of the blacks. No, 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 no. They can't be black. We can't have a civilization that predates Greece and Rome. If Greece and Rome is supposed to be the apex of white civilization, we can't have a civilization that preceded them and that they gained all of their knowledge from. Burn down the Library of Alexandria and then take all those scrolls and then hide them in the basement of the Vatican. Tee hee 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 hee. Which is why they got the damn obelisk sitting right there in the Vatican. But that's a whole nother conversation. Let me not go down that path. But I mean, it blows. It doesn't blow my mind. It irritates me. It irritates my mind. And going back to what I was saying about all this Viking shit, what James Yeager is doing is essentially what a lot of these, young white men want, what they're asking for. And that psychologist that I pulled the video up, the one that, makes the videos talking about magical thinking. If you type in magical thinking and you find a picture of some, old white man with white hair, and he's a psychologist. I'm like, what's his name? Let me see. Let me scroll down. Let me go back. I want to get his name right. His name is, give me a second. His name is, who is this? Sam Vaknin. Vaknin. I don't know how to say his name. Well, he's middle-aged. He's not old. But anyway, he's got a video called Dystopia, This Horrible Time We Live In. And you know who else made a video discussing almost the same thing? Chris Hedges. Chris Hedges also states the exact same thing that Professor Sam Vaknin what is it? Vac 9. I don't know how to say his name. Anyway, it says the same thing, which is that this call for the Viking, this Viking call, that many of these white men, basically white men are trying to take white masculinity, right? Because they're just if black men are hyper masculine, and that's how they're promoted in the media and music and all that other shit. White men are just masculine, and be it all the stuff that's going on in society, LGBT, feminism, women making their own money now, and then all this gender confusion and stuff like that. White men with just basic masculinity, they don't really know what their place is, especially, when you take the resources away from men. Women are hypergamous. They only want to date up. But then you have men that it takes longer than it's ever taken in American history for a young man to get himself established and on his feet. The cost of living, there's no such thing as a living wage anymore. Minimum wage in the past actually meant living wage. Now it doesn't. So now you got a lot of, virile, frustrated young white men. Why do you think you see so many white mass shooters? Okay, this is a frustration with society. Okay, especially a frustration with an entitlement to something that they thought that they would be promised because they're at the top, right? But like my white colleague said, he felt like black guys were cheating the system because we were able to go out here and get things off of big dicks and swag. Again, not understanding that, the whole idea of women being only attracted to men that they have to negotiate resources with, it's not so cut and dry. And even us in the black community, we've struggled with that idea. You go out and try to be the Carlton Banks and think that you're going to get the girls when you get money and resources to get yourself established, but it's not the case. It's a little bit more complex than that. But one of the things that both Chris Hedges and this Professor Sam Vaknin thing that they said is that there is this call for death, not upon other people, but on themselves. There's this call for death. Even if you go out there, they want a war. They want to go to battle. You saw this with the tiki torches, white guys in Charlottesville, right? They ready to go to war, right? None of these guys look like they touched a weight in their life, right? It's just this rage, this white male rage. They're just going out there, right? Because they feel, emasculated. Like I said, if you want to die in battle so that you can, go see the gates of Valhalla, so that you can spray your mouth shiny and chrome, witness me, blood bag, witness, right? So that you can do that, you have to create an enemy, or you have to keep an enemy, going. And that obviously is, black people, right? That's why you see all in the news. No matter how crazy, no matter how deranged, no matter how homeless, any act in the news, the mainstream media, tries to make black people out to be these hedonistic savages, right? Even though it speaks more to the failure of the not only the healthcare system in this country, but the mental health in this country. They're just evil. Just paint them that way so that they can throw them in the prison industrial complex because that's established. That's well funded, right? Politicians have their money in the prison industrial complex. So everybody who's a nutcase, just throw them in prison. You see? Because we don't really want to have to fund our mental health institutions and really treat people, that are that have problems and really need help and support and medication, and we don't really want to do that, especially if they're minority people. Oh God, no. We don't want to do that. We'll just use the crazies amongst them, even though they have crazies in every group. We'll just use them to say that that's what those people are like, and they're innately or inherently dangerous. You see, this is all a part of the system of white supremacy. It's all a part of it. This vilification bullshit. But see, now that you have what Stokely Carmichael tried to tell white people what was going on. Again, go type in Communist Auto Workers Party. It's a black and white video. The thumbnails of a I don't know. It's like the corner of a rooftop. And play that video and listen to what he's actually saying in that video. And that was said like what, in the 60s or the 70s? And here we are in 2022. It like shit hasn't changed. These white people still drinking the same Kool-Aid. Oh, excuse me, Snapple. They're still drinking the same Snapple that they've been drinking, not realizing that there's a lot of what goes on in America that is predicated more on classism than it is on race or racism. They don't get it. So now you have white men that can't get their lives started. You got white men that, they're not making any money, right? It's even white women are running around. He's not on my level. He's not on my level. I want a man that makes money, right? Remember Tommy Loren up there? Me and my friends are successful. He's not on my level, right? You got the opioid crisis. You got white boys dying left and right from opioids. You got white boys dying left and right from suicide. Right? I mean, you got to really look at what's going on out here. Right? You got the cost of housing. Oh, you want a 2-bedroom bungalow? That'll be $300,000. Who the fuck can afford what 27-year-old can afford that on the type of wages that they're out here paying people, unless you're in the tech industry? You see what I'm saying? So because of that, because white men can't even enter masculinity, let alone hyper masculinity. See, hyper masculinity happens in the black community because we don't have anything to lose, right? That we know, like when you have masculinity and masculinity is properly channeled, you get a productive society. Hyper masculinity is when the conditions are all screwed up and there's no institutions, there's no foundations, there's no way to channel all that testosterone. And again, since women are still attracted to masculine men and hyper masculine men appear to be more masculine than just masculine men, they can still get women even if they're running around there being pirates and going, "Arr, shiver me timbers," right? They can go out there and they can just be rogue males and they can do the drill music and they can do all that, and they're not going to get any shortage of bitches, which flies in the face of the structure, that white society has established. Was no, what you got to do is you have to love Christ and you have to go out there and get yourself get a good job and finish your education and then get a good job and then raise a family and all that other stuff. But again, that doesn't even float in today's modern day of feminism. If a man goes out there and even tries to do it the traditional way, he'll probably be told, oh, that's sexist, that's misogynistic, we don't want that, and then the same woman will turn around 5 minutes later and talk about how, she's, she can't find a guy on her level. Same thing is going on in the white community as going on in the black community. It's just a little bit less because the white community is still on top. The white community still has resources, but the white folks at the top are majorly fucking up, which either means that they're just either A, got too goddamn greedy, or B, are trying to bring in New World Order by having everything fucking collapse. And then they get to come in like Senator Palpatine and then say, ha ha ha, supreme emergency powers, right? And then, then everybody's fucked, right? Again, I keep saying, I'm like, why do you think they want to take everybody's guns away? As much as they talk about America, America, America. Yeah, they want to take everybody's guns away. Because see, once you start fucking over the entitled, typical white American male, oh, you got revolution on your hands. You got revolution on your hands. And don't think that the powers that be, again, they keep trying to put, a freaking white classism. They keep trying to put a black face on white classism. If you notice that, let me say that again. They keep trying to put not a white face. They keep trying to put a black face on white classism. Let me say that again. They keep trying to put a black face on white classism. So that's why they want to, take people's guns away. Oh, we can't have that, because if you start screwing over enough young white men and people start seeing it for what it is, oh, you got a revolution on your hands. See what white men always, again, we can sit up in here and I can talk about Tulsa, the race riot. I can talk about Chicago 1919. I can talk about, Ocoee, Florida with July Perry, who was just trying to organize black people to vote to get some political power. And white people were like, oh no, we couldn't have that. Rosewood, Tulsa, what else? Omaha, Nebraska with Willie Brown, right? I mean, I got the list just at the tip of my tongue, on the top of my head. Okay, but what people don't talk about, they don't talk about, the freaking the Homestead massacre. What they don't talk about is they don't talk about the Latimer massacre. What they don't talk about is they don't talk about the Ludlow massacre. What they don't talk about is they don't talk about the Memorial Day massacre. All of those massacres I just said ain't had a damn thing to do with black people. They had everything to do with white people who were trying to get gainful employment and livable wages and trying to create laws. Because remember, child labor laws, that was fought for. 40-hour work weeks, that was fought for. Full medical and dental, that was fought for. Paid holidays, that was fought for. None of these things were given. You see, and over the last, 30, 40 years or so, right, the wages have stagnated, the cost of living has gone up, young men can't get their lives established, feminism has fucking exploded, right? Social media is fucking up the dating market, right? You got bitches, OnlyFans, making all type of money and shit like that, showing their body. Then after the chick is too old to show her body anymore, in the next 10 years, they'll be claiming, crying that I make $1 million, or I saved up $1 million from OnlyFans and nobody will date me. And they'll be bitching about, you're a sexist if you don't want to date a bitch from OnlyFans. So what I was doing in the 2020. So what? They'll be bitching about that shit. So the whole dating market, they'll slide it in DMs of only the top 10% of males, who have resources and shit. Like, oh, the whole shit is fucked up. So you have white men not starting families. You have white men, again, look at the white people's birth rates. Their birth rates are trash. Why do you think the Republicans come through and they're like, yeah, we need to challenge Wade versus Roe? It ain't about the religiosity like what the evangelical Christians are talking about. No, it's about controlling white women's wombs, because the way things are going, the minorities are having too many goddamn babies and we're not birthing enough white children. And in very short order, this nation is no longer going to be a majority white nation. So they got a whole bunch of shit going on, but I'm looking at white elites like, fuck is you doing? I mean, if I was white supremacy, I'd be like the concept of it, I would be like, fuck is you doing? Like, seriously, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, do you think we're going to maintain control with this? So, like I said, there has to be some sort of more nefarious woo-ha-ha thing going on in the background that I haven't been able to place my finger on. And maybe I shouldn't state it out loud, even if I did come to a conclusion, because somebody might try to make me disappear. Moo ha 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 ha. Right? So this is where we are. So when I see James Yeager going over there, see, they try to wrap it in patriotism. They try to wrap it in, identify with Ukraine in the world of freedom versus the world of totalitarianism, right? They try to wrap it in that. And I'm not saying that that's not an aspect of it. Let me not act like, there isn't an aspect of that. But that aspect is only in a white context, by white people, for white people. And that's the hypocrisy of James Yeager. Like I said, I wouldn't wish the ALS on him at all. And like I said, this video isn't really too much about James Yeager, but it's really about, this death wish, this wanting to die a warrior, in this beta male, America that we live in. It's this wanting to die a warrior. In the Western society as we have it now. And it's not just America, it's all over. You see the same thing in Europe. All these, groups, all these white supremacist groups popping up. How do you have a white supremacist group in a country that doesn't have anything but white people in it? It's a homogenous society. Like you trying to blame literally blame the 0.000000000% of immigrants in the country for all the woes, the economic woes of the fucking country. That's what makes young white men so goddamn dangerous. Because when they are getting screwed over, you know what they do? Oh, it's everybody else's fault. It's the niggas' fault. I'm like, how the fuck is it everybody else's fault? And y'all the motherfuckers in the driver. You the one standing at the captain's wheel, or at least you are a member of the dominant group of the people who are in control of the captain's wheel. But you're still going, oh, it's the niggers, oh, it's the Chinese, oh, it's the Muslims, oh, it's the, and again, they're at the lowest rung of the society. I'm like, how does that work? They're the lowest rung of the society. They have no power. But instead of looking at the people that look like you at the top and being like, what the fuck? No, you're dumb racist asses goes, oh, we need to create an enemy at the bottom that has no freaking power so that we can have this quote unquote race war and die at the gates of Valhalla, or come out a warrior. That what do you think, white women are going to jump up and they're going to be like, oh my god, thank you, you saved us from the blacks, here's some pussy? Like, is that how you think it's going to play out? That's literally how they think it's going to play out. They think that they're going to be standing there, looking like freaking Conan the Warrior, with a white woman grabbing their ankle, you know what I mean, looking in a fur bikini, would they stand there with their damn Lionel freaking looking Thundercat Conan sword and shit. Thundercats, Thundercats, ho! They literally think that. They literally think that. Yeah, I'm gonna go out here and fight this other minority male, and I'm gonna get some white bitches off of this. Yeah, like it's just retarded. It's retarded. But there is this death wish that these folks have. Because Western society is just completely emasculating men all over the place. Mary Kay Hoymowitz, she wrote about this, in her book. What was it? What was the book called? Something about failing boys or whatever. You can look it up. You know, but I think that's her name, Mary Kay Hoymowitz. I know it's Hoymowitz is like her last name. But like this is what Western society has done. Now, in the black community has already been economically disenfranchised and crippled and all that other shit. So, hypermasculinity is just taking over. Again, we are the canaries in the coal mine. And to me, you know, uh, white boys have two ways of going about it. They either, basically embrace, they become a wigger, as people like to say. And many, you see many other groups doing that as well. Many other non-white or non-black peoples who adopt inner city urban culture. Sometimes it's just a byproduct of where they grew up. Other times they gravitate towards it because, like I said, in a situ, nobody wants to be judged by shit that they don't have. And the black community has different value system, as we've heard so many times. A lame with money is still a fucking lame. You see, so money doesn't have as much of a value in the black community as it does in the white community or the Asian community, where if you don't have money, you just ain't shit. You see, there is no underground, there is no subculture that they can go to. You see, because the underground is the actual underground in other communities. They're not plastered all over billboards and shit like that. You're not going to go to Japan and see the Yakuza plastered all over a billboard, or go, to the freaking Italy and see the mafia plastered all over a billboard with theme music. You're not going to see that shit. Fuck no. No, you're not going to see the triads with theme music. You're not going to see that shit. Like the only time you'll see that shit is in a fucking movie like Tokyo Drift and shit. And that time I came we go. And that time I Tokyo. And that time I go. Right? That bullshit, right? That's the only time you're gonna see that shit. You're not gonna see that anywhere else in a movie. You're not gonna see it in Japanese society. I mean, hell, they've crippled the Yakuza in Japan. If you got even Yakuza tattoos and shit, they shut down your bank account. They're doing the same thing that the IMF is doing in Russia right now by taking them off SWIFT. So they can't even do anything with their money. But this whole, like, I see right through it, man. I'm telling you, I see right through. Go ahead, if you think I'm bullshit, go online and type in Vikings and white supremacy, and you're gonna see a whole bunch of articles that come up. Other people are already talking about it. I didn't even know other people were talking about it like that, like that. I was just like, what is with this fucking Viking shit? All y'all just want some Viking. I keep thinking of that, that movie, Mad Max and the Road Warrior. He literally made up a religion, the V8, and told them the gates of Valhalla because all those people, they were too young to know anything. They were all his kids and they didn't know shit. So he could just make up a religion and they were willing to sacrifice themselves off of this idea that this dude made up. That's why movies like that are just brilliant. Because they're trying to signal to people just how much all this shit that people try to follow and everything else is bullshit. Because if everything collapsed and nobody knows shit from piss, somebody who has the knowledge can make shit up. This was the whole premise of the movie The Book of Eli with Denzel Washington. You know what I'm saying? It's not just a fucking book. It'll give you power. If I had the words in the book, I'm misquoting him all over the place, but go ahead, pull up that quote, The Book of Eli. Just type in, it's not just a fucking book. And watch that scene in The Book of Eli. The words will let me control people. Right? That's why he wanted the book. Not because he truly believed in the shit. No, he wanted to use it as a mechanism of control, same way black people were given the slave Bible. Because we got to make them obedient slaves. So we can't, take all that shit in the Bible out about, a salvation and freedom. Take all that shit out of there. No. Take all that stuff out. No, just leave the obey your earthly master. Leave that shit in there. You know what I'm saying? Black people need to fucking awaken. White people, I'm not going to sit around and wait for them to wake up. I see glimmers of hope here and there from time to time from some true intellectuals, but they don't have the popular, they don't have the popular platform. They don't have the floor. They don't have the, you know what I'm saying? Like, they don't have it like that. So it's always going to be, they're going to be shunned. Oh, they're leftist academia, and whatnot. Even if what they're doing is like truly well written, well founded, well studied, well researched, and all that other stuff. Like, they're never going to get the spotlight. Especially now with magical thinking being so prevalent. Basically, people are just going to reject anything that doesn't confirm the bias that they already have. So we're in a really bad state. Like, you want to talk about like the collapse of empires, the fall of Rome, like we're at that point. I know what the Christians are going to say. So it's the end of days, it's the end of times, and the Bible talks about this, Pete, and you just keep ignoring it. The rapture is coming. That's what they want to say. But again, that's not my focus. My focus is on this pathology that white people got. This wanting to reclaim. And it's like, man, look, if you sit there and you watch some drill music, you sitting there watching some Chef G and you feel like a bitch and you feel, just, damn, like how come we don't have no masculinity like that? If that's like, just say it. Then just say, hey, man, I don't like the way that white men are being depicted. I don't like how white men are being put down in these sitcoms. Like I said, that video that I did. Yeah, there's white men that have already called that out. We went from Leave It to Beaver, Dad Knows Best, to freaking, King of Queens. Like where you're like every dad is just a buffoon. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny how people are now going back and worshiping Al Bundy, saying he was red pill and MGTOW before MGTOW. But the fathers since that have all just been, it's not fathers knows best. It's like they're like the comedic relief. And the woman, she's the one that has it together. She's the one with the wisdom, right? And then we see how, like, what happened with Bill Cosby and how they tried to destroy the Cosby Show. And again, what was that? Uh, season 8, episode 1, Bill Cosby Show. And you see what he was trying to portray and depict there. It's like, could you imagine if that continued? Like like that being, some would argue, well, the economics weren't there, so the idealism, that's just idealism. And I'm like, nah, I agree with the economics need to be there, but you still need to have that idealism still, being promoted. It's the same thing I say about the church. The whole reason the black church doesn't work and it failed is because when there's economic opportunities there and you're talking about Jesus and doing the right thing and all this other stuff, yeah, people will say, yeah, that, Christianity works, of course. I mean, we're all living good, we're eating good, we're comfortable and all that other stuff. So, but when you just have religion in the vacuum, you see, it doesn't work. And now it's been exposed as not working. There's no response. You see all the savages running around here in the community, and the crime has gone up, these are teenagers doing this shit. No amount of the Bible is going to fix that. That's going to take not only gainful employment for men, but gainful employment in conjunction with fathers in the home. And you're not going to have fathers in the home without gainfully employed fathers. But again, the powers that be don't want to address this point. It's all about, their bottom line, and they want to do this and they want to do that. It reminds me of the disaster that is Battlefield 2042. It's like, yo, I come over here to play Battlefield. I'm not here to play Apex Predators, or I'm not here to play freaking Fortnite. Don't Fortnite my Battlefield. Don't Call of Duty my Battlefield. If I wanted to play a hero shooter, then I go over there and play a hero shooter. But I want to play Battlefield, squad up, all that shit. What are you doing? You know what I mean? And they ignored their audience, totally did something else, and they failed. And I look at America like the same thing. It's like, what are you doing? Will you please stop fucking with the dials, man? You keep fucking with the dials, and then you're gonna break the shit, and then it's just everything's just broken. And I doubt that we'll be able to recover from that. So, and that's just across the board. And, again, like I said, black people are the canaries in the coal mine. Black people be sitting there and they laugh and, oh, so look at the niggers. They think that shit's not going to affect it. I'm like, okay, motherfucker. And the number one person I got to see that was a white guy, good friend of mine from Kentucky. I got him to see that shit. He had his preconceived notions about the black community. And I was like, okay, you tell me what the difference is between black people in Detroit and the auto industry collapsing and what happened to your people down there in Kentucky when they closed down the coal mine. You tell me what the fucking difference is. Because they got opioid epidemic down there. They got rampant, hepatitis C down there. They got, he's got family members that like he has to hide shit from because they'll steal it and then pawn it. He can't even invite them over his house. He's a white guy. And I'm like, what's the difference between that and black guys going off and flipping some keys to make some money because they can't go to and work in GM to make $35 an hour full medical and dental? What's the difference? And he was like, damn, you got a point. Because he pointed out to me, and I didn't even know that. He was like, yeah, he's like, the mines, he's like, there's nothing in the area that anybody can make the type of money that they were making in the mine. I was like, well, how much were they making in the mine? And he was like over $100,000. I was like, I didn't even know that. You know what I mean? Like the guys that do the bolts, that put the bolts in the ceiling, you know what I mean? To make sure that the ceiling doesn't collapse. As they go down the mine every so often, they got a guy that's got to go down there and he's got to put these bolts, drill these bolts in the ceiling so that the ceiling doesn't fucking collapse. $65,000 to start. And then it goes up, from there, depending on your experience and yada, yada, yada. You know what I mean? But I was like, damn. I was like, okay. And he's like, ain't nothing out there paying that type of money. You can't go and bag groceries at the local store and make $65,000. You see what I'm saying? But there's so many days I don't have any sympathy for white men because I'm like, y'all ain't got no sympathy for us. Y'all act like we're alien. Y'all act like, like we need the exact same shit, but y'all act like somehow we're dysfunctional because when we don't have the exact same shit that you need and we can't make it work, that, oh, let's see, it's just the niggas. Niggas is just niggas, and that's what niggas do. And I'm like, for real? For real? So real, you expect me to do the same thing with $3 when it took you $20 to do it? For real? You know what I'm saying? Like, their math is all fucked up. You know what I mean? And you can't do anything but charge it to racism. So it's unfortunate, what's going on with James Yeager. I just, I wish that, he could see the light, before he leaves this earth. But I doubt that he'll see the light. And I doubt many other white men will see the light. It's like these people don't even understand how, like, shit actually works. They're so caught up in their idealism. They're so caught up in the white Jesus and Christianity and American patriotism and the American exceptional. They're so caught up in that bullshit. The people that are fucking the world over look like them. That's the facts. So when they want to say, oh, well, what does the face of evil look like? I'll tell you, it's pale. It's pale. And it most likely doesn't have brown eyes. Anyway, I am done. That is my video. SWP out.
Got the deer hitting cause I get to clicking and I bear low, bitch. Money said low, quick pack and stayed up off the bear low, bitch. We got big bucks fucking sitting up, turn the bear low, bitch. We gon' say low, quick pack and stayed up off the bear low, bitch. My niggas drillin' since knee high. Who gon' do what? Man on the shit like I came out the butter. Been dropping these names like a cigarette butt. Can't catch this man fucking shot spotter. They gon' complain but the fuck they gon' do? I feel the hate but I'm not bothered. Sick and ashamed, take care of your crew. Niggas know gang send shots, so what? Gang do walk-ups, gang been blocks and all. Watch how I finish the scrimmage, they think that I'm playing. Just watch how I rock the ball. No, we don't plan on the drilling. We catching me clipping cold coach for the execution. I'm stuck with these villainy feelings. I hope I'm not thrown in an institution. They love me now. Broken up on me, there was no discussion. But look how they love me now. Dropped out they young and they thought I was dumb. But look how they love me now. Stubborn was hungry, no hand on no nothing. But look how they love me now. Too busy hating, they love me now. Talking on me, speak facts, fuck a chit chat phone and split pack. Gang, now he leaking split splash, should've dipped dash, boy, y'all pit pat. Look at them scurrying, hurrying, we just be laughing, we know that they running, man. Never even, we take the score, then we double and triple the numbers, man. Woke in the spot, got my shit tucked, when performing, my homies keep shit grimy. Talking just talk, I ain't with chucks, run up on us, your losses gon' get plenty. Step in the parties, no dancing, stay with the glizzy, my niggas lurking reap. Took so much chance and drilling this casual, glizzy, my soul to keep. Run up on a broad day, grip, brat, 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 brat. Gang, stare at me the wrong way, grip, brat, 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 brat. Gang, surviving, healing, King County make visits, we finishing every nigga. Talk about drilling and mention my niggas like mention like every of us. They love me now. Broken up on me, there was no discussion, but look how they love me now. Dropped out they young and they thought I was dumb, but look how they love me now. Stubborn was hungry, no hand on no nothing, but look how they love me now. Too busy hating, they love me now. They love me now. Broken up on me, there was no discussion, but look how they love me now. Dropped out they young and they thought I was dumb, but look how they love me now. Stubborn was hungry, no hand on no nothing, but look how they love me now. Too busy hating, they love me now.